I can't believe this is finally happening. VeggieTales is now 30 years old. That's so crazy to think about. Like, I watched VeggieTales so much on VHS and DVD as a kid. I would sing the songs, I would laugh at a lot of the jokes. I'd just be mesmerized by, like, so many aspects of the show. It all started with one video. Where's God when I'm scared? Produced in 1993 by three people in in a small area in Chicago. This was something kind of special when it came out. No one had really like made a 3D animated show, or there wasn't much going on with 3D animation aside from some shorts by Pixar. So let's dive in to what we have. Alright, so the first section is Tales from the CRISPR. And this is the strangest aspect of Where's God When I'm Scared. Because, yeah, it's kind of nice, but it leaves so many plot holes. Alright, let's count them. Let's count how many. 1. How did Bob and Larry know where Junior was living? 2. How did they know about the situation they were in? 3. I can't think of any, but you get the point. This is... You know, I don't know how to describe this segment. It's completely bizarre. And, well, yeah, but even with its bizarreness and its plot holes, there are still some really great stuff about it. I like the sound effects they chose. The song, God is Bigger, pretty good for being for the first VeggieTales song. And the little moment between Dad Asparagus and Junior was really sweet. And, like, that's definitely, like, one of my... I think the best part about Tales from the CRISPR. Because it's just such a tender moment. Like, Junior basically acts like how a 5-year-old acts. And what? There's good parenting? He mentioned... Because Dad mentioned we should be more careful with what you watch. This is, like, what parenting should do. Like, I think instead of, like, blaming a company or a show or something, just, you know, like, don't do that. Just make sure, like, whatever the children's watching is, like, you know, just... I think just, like, talk to them about it. Like, what they're watching is either right or wrong, instead of just, like, you know, blaming something else for it. So yeah, I really like that. Then there's Daniel in the Lion's Den. This, I think, is a step up, even if it does have one little plot hole. The songs are just great. Oh No, What We're Gonna Do is like one of the best songs in VeggieTales history. And one of the best villain songs ever. It's just so catchy. And it's just one so many people remember. Like, it's impossible to hate or dislike this song. The one little plot hole I do have is, like, how were the wise men... How were they able to tell that Daniel, like, was not praying to King Darius? Like, you'd have to have, like, some kind of tracking device on Daniel to, like, know. Like, I don't get that. Maybe if the crew had more time when developing this, maybe they could have explained some of these plot holes better. But yeah, and then the Water Buffalo song. This was the only silly song that Phil Vischer wrote. I think it's really nice. Uh, I just loved singing it as a kid, and I just love Archibald's little rant about, why, like, where's my water buffalo? Why don't I have a water buffalo? But, um, I think something that's more fascinating about Where's God When I'm Scared than the episode itself is the making of it. Like, Phil was going to attempt to animate this whole thing, but then he decided it's too much. So he brought in two of his friends, Chris Olsen and Robert Ellis, to help with animation. They then did it in this small little storefront in between a Spanish grocery store and a comic book shop. And then they were triple shifting. And then also, like, they set up an 800 number, took out ads in magazines to promote it, so they would constantly just, be animating and then having to answer the phone. And then they just do this for the last 3 weeks. They would just pull all-nighters. This sounds like an absolute nightmare. Like, the Big Idea Wiki says that Rack and Benny was the most difficult episode to make. I disagree. I'd say something like Where's God When I'm Scared or The Twilight Saved Christmas sounded much more difficult to make. Because this was in an era where, like, nothing like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, none of that existed. There was no, like, independent stuff going on that we have today. So that seemed like that was a challenge for the three, should I say, the three amigos who animated this. The animation is interesting, I'll say. I'd say at the time it looked pretty impressive, but now today you could obviously tell this is not very good, but I don't know, there's just some kind of charm to, like, this animation. Like, there are some really good moments of animation, but you could also tell there was some stiffness, and the quality is, of course, not the greatest. Because this still has, like, when I watched, even on a DVD, this still has, like, VHS quality. What else is there to say about this? Well, there are some, like, I do like seeing things from the start so that would eventually grow. Like, the animation would get better. Larry in this in the first two shows had more of a lower dopey lispy voice, and then he, I'm not gonna bother doing a Larry impression. Would get much higher pitched, later, yeah. Well, it's honestly kind of hard to think about, like, where I would rank this. Like, I don't know if it's okay or if it's good. I find it mostly fascinating. This is, like, a very interesting time capsule. Like, in a time where, animation was new, and VeggieTales was able to break new ground with it. Yeah, and 30 years later, we're still talking about VeggieTales. We're still talking about the kind of impact it's left on us and how it can affect generations for generations. Yes, the franchise is at a very dark point with Phil, Mike, Lisa, and Kurt no longer a part of the franchise. But at least we have stuff like this. Stuff that was able to remind us that, life was good back then. Like, where VeggieTales was actually really great and wasn't trying to do trends or, kind of suck. But even though, like, this isn't perfect, this was made with heart. This was made with a goal to kind of, Phil's goal to change the world and make something very wholesome. I think he kind of achieved that. So yeah, here's to another 30 for VeggieTales.